This call is being recorded.
All right, so we've got the amazing Rod Moser back, and last week it did such a great job with us regarding tactics and techniques and mindsets for converting for sale by owners. And I hope most of you have taken the time to write out the script. I did, and I'm working on it a ton. And this morning I was doing some role play, felt really good with it. So now it's time for us to get some great ideas from Rod on his listing presentation. So Mr. Rod, Mr. Salt Lake City, Mr. For Sale by Owner Master. Rod, can you share with us this morning just some ideas on, face-to-face? What are some great tactics or little tricks that you do to be able to create rapport, trust, respect, authority that we should all be applying right now? Any good, simple ideas that we should be on top of?
Yeah, well, man, I don't want to deviate too much from our focus, but one of the things that I've used for a lot of years that helps me a ton when I show up is putting myself in a peak emotional state for the presentation, right? Most of the time our presentations are set for late in the afternoon or late in the evening after we've been prospecting all day and doing all the hard stuff, dealing with the phone calls and the emails and all the stuff that comes along with selling real estate. And we go to show up and we don't have the energy and we don't have the mindset strength and we're not in a peak emotional state. So I've used, a Tony Robbins technique called stacking to be able to create that emotion in an instant, right? I remember, Tom and Bill were talking about, and even Matthew, Patrick, I'm not sure if you were involved in this. I imagine you probably were, about the golden circle when they get on the call and step into it, where they would flood themselves with the right emotions and get themselves into a peak emotional state. I've anchored those emotions to my ring finger on my left hand. So if you were to watch me go into a presentation, you'll watch me squeeze that knuckle, and instantly I bring in a flood of very positive, powerful emotions so that I can put myself on stage for that moment. So yeah, being prepared, eating right, having enough energy and enough health and strength to be able to carry through a full listing presentation, being sharp, lots of water, all those things I think are important. So anyways.
Could you give us a reference for that? I mean, I know we all probably need to get to a Tony Robbins event where we can really dig into that over the course of the 3 or 4 days. And, I just haven't been yet. Everybody that I know has and is using that tool pretty effectively. Is there any other resources that we can be accessing right now, a book, a video, or anything that that would just kind of take us through the basics?
For sure. There's one called Essential NLP. I think it's Richard Bandler that wrote that one of the fathers. And it's a phenomenal book, but it's called stacking, right, or anchors. And basically you take yourself back to a moment in your life, whether it was, where you were 10 foot tall and bulletproof, not with alcohol, but with what was going on, right? So, stealing home for me, I'm in high school, I've got I'm playing baseball. I've got college scouts in the stands watching me, and I put myself back in that moment of stealing home, and what I felt like when I stood up, and it was the winning run, and it was amazing. And I bring that back with as much emotion and senses as possible. What was I smelling? What was I hearing, feeling? How did my clothes feel on me? What was I feeling in my chest and in my stomach as I'm getting ready? And I bring myself to that peak emotional state where I am powerful and I can do anything that I will myself to do. And when I get to that point, I just reach over and I squeeze that knuckle. And all of that emotion is then anchored into a body part that I can call on in a moment's notice. And if you do it right, it takes a little practice. When you do it right and you reach over and you squeeze that knuckle, and if you can't tell, you can probably tell the emotion in my voice and the energy. I did that just as we started the call, and now I'm in a position where I'm ready, right? I'm capable, and I have called on the strength of my past to put me in the right moment for the event, for the presentation.
Nice.
It's probably weird right there, but anyways.
It's something that, I see and have heard lots about and just have really never executed it. So, and I'm sure a bunch of the guys on the call today are in that same space. So I got the NLP, the Essential Guide to Neuro-Linguistic Programming, Perfect. And I'll put that in as a link, for everyone to check it out. So you're saying get into the right state, which is obviously important. I got a 6 p.m. listing appointment tonight, and you know, I did CrossFit at 5 p.m. or 5 a.m. this morning.
Awesome.
So it's gonna be quite the day. So good. Anything else in terms of, you know, you're always full of great ideas and tactics. Anything else, just simple things when we show up to a listing appointment, especially with a for sale by owner?
Yeah, so absolutely dress the part, right? What they're looking for, and you get this from Robert Cialdini a lot, you know, but showing up as an expert, you dress the part. Your shoes are polished. Your car is washed and clean inside and out because they're checking all that stuff out. When you pull up, don't sit and psych yourself out in front of their house where they can see you and go, man, that guy needs some help, right? Park a block away, get yourself ready, and then when you pull up, immediately exit your car. Don't hesitate, right? They're watching you, and they're counting how much money they're going to have to give you if they decide to hire you, so show up dressed professionally. Pressed clothes, you know, pressed tie, sharp shoes, clean haircut, you know, just look the part of a professional. And then I like to knock on the door. I don't like to ring the doorbell because a doorbell doesn't show personality, but a knock can. You don't want to break your knuckles, so bring something with you that you like the back end of a book or something that you can tap on the door with so you're not break. But anyways, you have a little personality in your knock. You can show energy based on the strength of your knock. And then you take a couple of steps back, turn and look sideways, you know, down the street. So you're giving them a profile shot. That helps them to feel more safe, more secure, and give them plenty of room between the door and you. You don't want to be standing right next to the door. If you're a big guy, Patrick, further away, even take a step down, you know, off of the porch so that you're a little bit closer to eye level. When they open the door, that's when you can turn around, big smile on your face, and say, you must be John, I'm Rod. We had an appointment at 2 o'clock. May I come in? And it's not, may I come in? It's not a question. It's a statement. May I come in? Downswing in your voice. You look down at their hand. You can lean forward like you're shaking it, but assume they're just going to pull you right in. And then you begin the tour. I'm really excited to get a chance to see what your home has to offer the market. Would you guys like to show me around, or would you like to look at some information while I take a quick peek? However you want to do that. Now, I like to have them show me around the house when I'm there, primarily because I don't care about their house. I care about them. I want to begin to mirror and match who they are, how they are, where they are. I honor them, right? Most people that know me know my political affiliation. Most of my clients have no idea because I am who they are, right? Donald Trump is destroying our real estate market the first day that he gets in by stopping the FHA. You know, it just dropped the value of real estate 10 grand across the country overnight by not allowing the mortgage insurance to go through. So, but I don't bring all that stuff up or my own beliefs when I go through. I just mirror and match. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. He's crazy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's it. Yeah.
So and then great. And then so it's really just while they're showing you, you're creating the pattern and, you know, mimicking them, mirroring them, you know, starting to catch their cadence and the whole thing. And then, you know, you said some great stuff about, you know, where you sit and how you sit. And is there anything else that's just like, you know, you have to do this? I've got a couple newer agents on the line who've not done a lot of face-to-face listing presentations. So any parting thoughts on some of those strategies before we move to script?
Yeah, so when you walk through the house, the one thing that you don't want to do is over-compliment the house. They assume that you've been in a lot of houses, and you shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't be shocked at anything normal, right? Like granite countertops, yeah, whatever. Now, if they have something really, really cool, yeah, make a comment about it, but don't over-compliment them because it's going to hurt you in your pricing strategy later on. The other thing is as you walk by the kitchen table or a great place to do a presentation, right? I prefer to do a presentation standing up because my upper body is really short, and when I sit down, everybody towers over me and I look like a little kid. So, you know, if I walk by a countertop that's raised, I will set my paperwork there and say, is it okay if we come back here to go through the information? And I just set my papers down as I'm going by so they can't go, Oh, no, they're like, yeah, okay, that's great. And then if you are sitting down with them at a table, don't sit across from them. That's a boxing stance. You're fighting them. Sit to the side of them, because when you want to be on their side of the table as an advisor. Also, when you find out who the dominant party is, sit away from the dominant party if you can, right? Oftentimes, you'll learn that the woman is the dominant party. And it's better to sit so that the meeker one of the two is in between you, so that you can include them in the conversation with the dominant party as you look at them and to the other person, instead of, at the guy sitting next to you and ignore the one next to them. Does that make sense?
Right.
I know that's probably confusing.
Totally. No.
So yeah, all important stuff. And, an advisor sits to the side, maybe at the Godfather chair is how I like to call it, so that you're in an authority position, but you're also not across from them in a fighting stance.
Right.
Okay.
Awesome. No, that's good stuff. And, so obviously we've got to pay attention to who the heck that one is. Right?
Right,
and
right.
So paying close attention is part of the equation.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, let's dive in. Walk through is good. Let's dive in. You hit the stats really well. So I'm looking at your outline, and macro stats of the county is at the top of the list. So can you give us a quick, what do you cover in the macro stats, and kind of give us the format of how you do that?
You bet. So the statistics that I pay attention to, and I pull them by county. I want to get a big, broad view, 10,000 square foot view. And I've got total homes on the market, both active and under contract, the new actives in the last 30 days, the number of homes that went under contract in the last 30 days, the number of homes that sold in the past 30 days, average days on market for those homes that sold in the last 30 days, the total number of expireds, withdrawn, or pulled off the market in the last year, the total number of sold homes in the last year. And I'll go through the really quickly the reasons for that. So when I sit down, the first thing that I do is
take us through that one more time. Actually, I wanted to take notes on this, by the way. So give us one more time really fast.
You bet. So the total number of homes on the market, both active and under contract, I want that number to be as big as possible. Okay. The next one is the total number of actives in the past 30 days, the total number of homes that went under contract in the last 30 days, the total number of homes sold in the last 30 days, the average days on market for those homes sold in the last 30 days, the total number of expired, withdrawn, and off market in the last year, the total number of sold homes in the last year, and that's it.
Okay. And so quickly on this, so tonight I've got a presentation in a zip code, and so in the active under contract 30 days, am I doing that zip code, or am I doing San Diego County?
I would do a bigger area than just the zip code if I were you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'd go a little bit bigger macro. And what I generally ask is I say, hey, and remember, it all has to be questions. It has to be questions. If you tell somebody, I don't care how good your stats are, they're going to resist you. So you have to figure out how to ask questions as you're going through the process, because even if they don't answer them verbally, they're answering them mentally, and they're answering the way you want them to. That's the key to getting, right? Sales is getting somebody to do something you want them to do because they want to do it, right? So that's the trick.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. So the first thing, have you guys heard about what's going on in the market today? And they'll give me blah, 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 right? And I say, would you guys like to see what that looks like in actuality? Well, sure. Let me show you. And I just pulled up Davis County. I keep these week by week, but this is Davis County from June 11th, 2015. So I say the total number of homes on the market in Davis County right now as of Monday are 1,926 homes. In the past 30 days, we've had 683 new properties come on the market. In the same 30 days, we had 617 properties go under contract. Now, let me just ask you, if we've got 683 going on the market, 617 coming off, what's happening to the inventory? Is it growing or is it shrinking?
Growing slightly.
Yeah, it's growing, right? It's growing slightly. And obviously,
are you showing them these? Like, are you?
Yeah, so
are
I've
you
got
kind
it
of
in front of them. Yep,
you're pointing at it. You're doing the point. What's it here, there? Got it. Okay, good.
Exactly. Now obviously, by the way, that's neurolinguistic programming. They stop resisting it when you say things like obviously at the beginning of a sentence. So obviously, you're aware of the pressures of supply and demand on pricing, right? So if the supply keeps getting bigger and the demand stays the same, what's going to happen over time to property values? And here I am giving them the answer with a downward swing of my hand, right? Like the airplane nosediving, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going down, and I say that's right. Now, it's not even quite that good, right? In the last 30 days, because not every property that goes under contract actually sells. So in the last 30 days, we've actually only closed 446 properties. So if we have 683 coming on the market, 446 coming off, we're growing the inventory right now by about 240 homes a month. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, as good as the market has been, we have 1,926 homes on the market. We pulled 446 off. Do you realize that we had over 1,500 families hire an agent expecting to sell their home, and they didn't find a buyer this month? Not great, right?
No.
Right. Now, the average days on market for these 446 homes that sold in the last 30 days was 51 days. So it's taking on average almost 2 months to get a property sold. Now, by the way, I want the days on market to be as large as possible because that's buying me time of listing days before their expectation is passed and they're mad at me, right? I want to buy myself. So instead of using a median days on market, I use an average days on market. It gives me a bigger number. Okay. Finally, now this is an interesting number, right? In the last year, we had 2,401 properties go on the market in this county and fail to sell. I usually get, wow, that's a bigger number than I expected. Right. Obviously, based on this, hiring the right agent for the job of selling your home can have an impact of not only how much money you get, but whether or not your property even sells. Does that make sense? Yeah, really good. Okay. And lastly, now we did happen to sell 4,831 homes last year. But what's interesting about that is we've got, now I'm not sure how many are in Davis County. We sold 17,000 homes in Salt Lake County last year, and we have 8,000 agents in Salt Lake County, so I run those numbers. So if we sold 17,000 properties and we've got 8,000 agents, how many, you can do the math, how many houses does the average agent sell?
Right.
Looks like 2 or 3. Right. So based on that, let me just ask you a question. What criteria will you use to ensure that the agent that you hire is the right agent for the job of selling your home, somebody that's going to help you to not only get it sold, but sell it for the most money? What criteria are you going to use? Now, what's great about that question is they are now going to tell you everything that's important to them that you need to discuss during your listing presentation. They're going to load both barrels of your shotgun right here. When they say, right, like this is it, this is the key, this is the pre-close, they're going to say, look, well, marketing is important to us, so you want to make sure the property is exposed to every possible buyer. Is that right? Now, you rephrase these to match your message. When they say, well, look, I want somebody who's going to discount commissions, you say, so at the end of the day, netting the most money possible is absolutely critical to you. Is that what I understand? Okay, terrific. So you rephrase it to match your message.
Right.
Does that make sense? And then you hit on those buttons, and at the end of the presentation, you can go, now at the beginning of the presentation, you said these 3 things are important, and you cover them. Do you feel like hiring me would accomplish each one of those things? Well, yeah, Rod, it does. Terrific. Could you guys follow me outside, right? And then you walk outside and say, where on your lot, you've lived here for a while, where would we put the sign to get the best exposure? And when they pick a spot, they hired you. Have them sign the paperwork.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Okay. Macro, thank you for that. That was awesome. I really need to incorporate that. And I think influentially with the for sale by owners, it's very powerful and effective.
Yeah,
so that's
and
great.
everybody,
Great.
yeah, this is one of those that everybody just needs to know about. By the way, this is the authority piece. You show up dressed the part, and you just cover this. I don't care if you've been 1 day in the business or 15 years in the business. They don't know the difference because you obviously know the market. Now the question of how many properties do you sell or how long have you been in the business, it doesn't even come up. You just showed them that you're an expert in the field by understanding the numbers, not broadly, specifically. This is a critical component to setting you up to win the presentation.
Beautiful. Okay. Love it. I think you're right. I think for a lot of our new agents, this is just a huge, powerful tool. Great. So I love what you do with the who determines the value of the home. So can you run us through that real fast so we can all take some notes?
You bet. So after we go through this, I'll say, hey, before we tackle the comparables and all that kind of stuff and the absorption rate analysis that I promised you, let's go through and just establish a couple of things. So really quickly, who determines the value of a property? And, you want to lead them back, right, to the buyer determines the value, right? Because at the end of the day, if the buyer doesn't agree to a price, there is no sale, so there is no value, right? Now, how do buyers determine value? Well, they determine value by comparison shopping, right? And then I think it's really important right here, and you probably have the outline in front of you, but on the outline, it basically goes through and it says buyers buy a home twice, right? They buy a home emotionally, and then they justify the emotion with logic. And because the emotional side is different, right? If I had 100 buyers in a room today and I asked 100 different people what they're looking for specifically in a home, how many different opinions do you think I'll get? Now notice it's the way that you ask the question. They're going to say probably close to 100, and I say that's right. So trying to specifically design your home for that one particular buyer is not a winning strategy. But everybody, after they decide they love it emotionally, has to go home and justify it with logic. So we have to win that argument if we're going to be able to keep a sale together, right? A lot of times when you have somebody fall in love emotionally with a property and they go and justify it logically and they can't, that's where those transactions fall apart.
Nice.
Is that kind of what you were looking for right there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So so what we're going to look at. So we're going to look at the numbers. We're going to look at the comparable properties. We're going to determine all of that. But we're also going to look at the logical side, and we're going to base our pricing off of the logical side because without that, we can't win.
Got it. And all of our marketing strategy, mega open house, professional photography, staging, professional photos, video, is to trigger all the emotion, get their butts in the door, get a circus in here, but we've got to make sure we follow through with the logic.
Well, hey, if you don't win a little bit of emotion, right, that's your job as a seller, right, is you have to make this property showroom ready for every showing so that we can help build that emotion. We've got to make it look good, right? And we do it with photos, we do it with all this, and you've got to do it with sight, smell, sound, all that kind of stuff that goes involved. So we have right, so you go through that.
Nice. Okay, love it.
Good.
All right, so let's go. What do you think? You've taken us through the stats, the buyer. We don't have time to really dive into your absorption rate analysis, which we've covered previously.
Sure.
But, in terms of some of the final objections that, let's just say, a for sale by owner will give you as you're progressing along in this logical presentation, what are some of those that you get that are the most common that we just need to be ready for?
Yeah, you got to be able to tell a story. Well, Rod, at the beginning when you called me, you said, "Hey, I'll pay you to list your home," and yet you're coming in here. I wanted $300,000, and based on these numbers, we're looking at about $280,000. How's that making me money? Right.
Right.
That's pretty common. If you handle this right, you usually don't get that. But as I'm coaching people through this, I'm hearing that a lot. So you have to be able to tell a story emotionally and convincingly. Right. I use the charity auction story I probably shared with you guys before.
Share it.
Man, see, what you can't say is, I know you're asking 300, but you'll never get it. You have to be able to tell a story that makes that point, because stories shut down the logical part of their brain, and you get into that secondary level of their brain, the subconscious, where all the decisions are made. The resistance is that frontal lobe, and you've got to get past that. You're able to get past that with a story, and they remember those stories. So even if you miss the close, which happens to me all the time, right? I'm at like 55 to 60%. When I go on a listing appointment, first time appointment with a for sale by owner, I'm only picking up 55 to 60% of those. But a lot of them will call me back because the stories they remember. It's stuck in their head. The fable stuck.
Can you give us some like an outline? What is the type of story? What do we need to layer into that story, for us to be able to get our stories really highly effective?
Yeah. You have to tell it with emotion. So I'll try and do this quick. I know we don't have a lot of time. And just listen to it as I go through to the components, right? So Have you guys ever been to a charity auction before? Yes
Yes.
or no, right? Whatever. Okay. So picture this. We show up at your high school auditorium. You know, the chairs, and notice the detail here. The chairs are cascading down towards the front of the auditorium, and there's a stage up there with a podium on it. And around the back of the stage are all the items that are going to be auctioned off. And everybody that shows up gets to walk around the back of the stage and look at the items before the bidding starts. So as you guys are walking back to the back of the stage, you come across a painting that you absolutely fall in love with, right? You decide, hey, we've got the money. This is what we're going to auction. This is what we're going to bid on. This is what we want. And in the upper right-hand corner of the painting, there's a little yellow Post-it note that says opening bid is $200. So you take your seats in the front row of the auditorium, and the auction gets ready to start. The auctioneer comes to the podium, and he grasps the gavel, and he raises the gavel. He's about to bring the gavel down, and by the way, at the beginning of the auction, the painting is going to be auctioned off first. So they bring the painting out. He raises the gavel. He's about to bring the gavel down on the podium, but before he does, you guys look around the auditorium and you realize you're the only two people in the auditorium. When he brings that gavel down on the podium, how much do you think you'd pay for that painting?
$200.
Yeah, certainly no more than $200. If you outbid each other, you'd probably need a marriage counselor, not a real estate agent, right? But right, so a little humor, right? And then you say, now, same scenario, but this time, as you guys take your seats in the front row of the auditorium, you watch couple after couple after couple walk along the back of the stage. Several of them stop at your painting, hold hands, smile at each other, obvious buying signals, right? Everybody takes their seats. The auctioneer comes out, is getting ready to start the auction, brings your painting out, raises his gavel. He's about to bring the gavel down to start the bid at $200, but before he does, you look around the auditorium and you realize every seat in the auditorium is full. When he brings that gavel down, how much do you think you might pay for that painting?
Yeah, $1,000.
Certainly more than $200. See, real estate works the same way. As a for sale by owner right now, what you're doing is you're marketing to an empty auditorium. You're marketing to the garage sale guys, the guys that are looking to pick up a Rolex at a big discount because it's being sold at a garage sale, not a store, right? What I'd like to do for you is I'd like to open up so that we fill every seat in the auditorium with the highest paying retail buyers, right? And I have a couple of strategies to do that. Now, in that story, really quickly, can you tell I paint the picture with as much detail as possible, with some familiarity. They've all been to a high school auditorium and seen that stage cascade, seen the chairs cascading down towards the stage. They picture it really well. You'll notice that I slow down and I staccato my words a little bit when I get to the point of the story that I want them to remember. You're marketing to an empty auditorium. What I'd like to do is, in essence, fill every seat in the auditorium. See, it's all familiar. They can picture it. I brought detail to it. There's a little bit of humor in it to get them to laugh and smile. They know where we're going. But you need to be able to finish the story, and there's a few questions in there to keep them engaged. Then you get all done, and if that doesn't work, you can always come back and say, hey, the problem is most for sale by owners do exactly what I did when I sold my house for sale by owner. They pay 100% of the fee, and they do 100% of the work. They take all the risks. They do the negotiations, the title inspection, the appraisal, the paperwork, all the legal risks that come involved in buying and selling real estate today, and they still give the fee, but instead of giving it to an agent who would have filled every seat in the auditorium and who would have brought the highest paying retail buyers, they sell to the garage sale guys and usually end up giving the income to the buyer instead of to an agent who would have helped them with the supply-demand process. Does that make sense? So that's basically the attack strategy, man.
Nice. That was great. So some great ideas on the story, and then the analogy is really the close, letting them know, hey, that's how you are at the current moment with your current strategy.
And I promised you guys, as we get all done, I promised you I would share those two strategies that would actually make you more money than if you sold on your own or hired somebody else. Let me cover those really quick. And that's the eBay strategy or the bank story. And then, and then the other one is the hire BAC, which is going to get every buyer with every agent with a buyer in their car is going to do everything they can to get that buyer in their front door. So anyways, artificially increase the demand.
Yep, artificially increase demand. Okay. What and that brings up a really good question, something that I'm grappling with, and I think a lot of my, friends and clients on here, we all do this, mega open house and the premier open house and do this pre-marketing. And it's like, at what point am I talking about that or bringing that into the equation when really it's like I got to actually first just get them to agree to hire me.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that out? It's like I've got all these tools in the tool shed of things that are really produce extraordinary results for the seller, but do I put those out on the table, or do I just try and keep it simple and get them to hire me?
I try and keep it simple and get them to hire me. I never bring up the marketing strategy because what I've discovered is sometimes I end up over-promising stuff that I don't want to deliver. Now, after I've solidified it, if I'm still struggling getting them to buy off, like something I've done has showed up and created fear in them. Otherwise, by the way, they're at a yes when they invited you over, or they wouldn't have you in the house. And
right.
You show up and convince them to change their answer to a no and not hire you by how you show up. And so it really is important as you're going through all of this. I use all of those things as objection handlers, right? Well, how are you exactly going to expose my property? Well, we're going to put your property on over 350 websites so that every buyer on the planet knows your house is over sale. I truthfully, when it comes to the open house strategy, I tell them the truth on that. I'm like, look, one of the things that I have done religiously for years, and I found that it creates a lot of activity in your property, this helps me as much as it does you, is I put together a mega open house strategy. We actually call it a going away party for you. We're going to throw you a little event. I'm going to take care of the food and the drinks. We'll make sure it's nothing crazy that's going to ruin your carpet. But what I'd like you to do is invite all of your family and friends, all of your neighbors over, and we're going to do that for an hour. And the reason we're doing that is social proof. I'm also going to bring in a few hot clients during that time, and then we'll have you guys leave, and we'll open it up to the public after that. But the more people I get invited to the property, the better it is for everybody, because people showing up and being there, interested in talking about what they love about your house, is only going to influence them more and help us with the social proof. Would you feel comfortable inviting a whole bunch of people to your open house on the first Saturday that we put it on the market? Now, I'm adding all of those people to my database, right? Because people move on average every 7 years. So every 7 families I add to my database adds a transaction a year moving forward, which is awesome. So if I can get them to bring 50 people over, I just added 7 transactions to my bottom line next year if I just maintain the relationships.
Exactly. Well done. All right. So I hear what you're saying. You're using those as objection handlers to create more value when they're not sure about hiring you, and just creating a little wow effect.
Right.
Gosh, I had another great question for you, and it just slipped my brain. So why don't I open it up to someone in the group, and let's hear if anyone else has a question for Rod. Most of these guys have been, on calls with you before. So while I'm trying to remember mine, let's hear it from the group.
Awesome.
Anyone? And I got a couple of you muted, so anyone? Bueller?
I put him to sleep, dude.
Well, that's what you do, is you trance people out. I started writing notes and I couldn't catch up, so I just gave up, and I knew I needed to come back and listen to this.
Yeah, sorry I talked fast.
All right. No, it's fantastic. All right, Rod, I got to try and remember my last question. It was a good one, but your open house strategy with the families and inviting everyone over totally took me in a different direction. So now I've totally forgot what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's just go just a simple thing. Rod, we love everything that you're saying right now. How much do you charge?
6.5%. I always do 6.5% plus a $595 transaction fee, because that's what my brokerage charges. So basically, I'm at 100% commissions, and I always do the 3% on the listing side. I just charge a fair amount, over deliver in value, and I offer a 3.5% BAC.
Okay. Well, another agent said that they would do it for 5%. Will you do that too?
I certainly will, and let me share with you what happens when you do that, right? So the first thing is we're talking about strategies to artificially increase the demand on your property. If you're competing right now, we know that the absorption rate is 7 and there's 7 buyers on average in your price range in your location. There's 23 properties on the market you're competing with. If they've got 23 homes to look at and the other homes are offering 3, 3, 2.5, 3, 3, 3, 2.5, 3, and then we have one that's offering 3.5. As an agent, which one of those properties would you be the most excited to sell?
Yep, 3.5.
Right, of course. Now, what happens is, it's funny because normally in a transaction you've got a listing agent trying to get the highest possible price on the property, a buyer's agent trying to get the lowest possible price on the property for their clients. But when you offer a 3.5% BAC, that buyer's agent comes over and he negotiates on our side of the table. He's doing everything in his power to convince his clients that this property is the best property. I learned a long time ago, sales is a transference of feelings. If I can get the agent super excited about your property, he's going to get his client super excited about the property. The problem with the agent that discounts is he's actually doing you a disservice. He's artificially shrinking the demand on the property because there are agents out there that won't even show it if they can avoid it. And if they do show it, what do you think they're telling their clients?
Yeah, just
negative. So if I could share with you a simple strategy that will actually make you money, right? It's counterintuitive, but offering a slightly higher BAC is in your best interest. However, I'll do whatever you guys tell me to do because I work for you. What would you like to do?
Nice. Well, will you reduce your percent on your side?
You know, that's a great question. When I first started in the business, I discovered that we live in a little bit of a litigious society. And the sad part is I actually speak multiple languages, right? I speak fluent Spanish, I speak English, and I speak a little Portuguese. And I work with a lot of different ethnicities. If I offered to sell your house at 2% or 2.5%, and I went down the street and offered somebody else, 3% and did the same services, what I've done is I've opened myself up to a class action lawsuit. Everybody that I charged the normal rate to could now come back and sue me for the difference. So I just do the same fee, and what I will do is I promise you that at the end of the day, two things. If you don't feel like hiring me was the absolute best decision for you and your family moving forward, you can fire me even if you don't like the color of my tie. I look at this as an interview process. I want to earn the right to be your go-to real estate guy. Whether you live in St. George, in Sandy, or in Siberia, I want to be the first call. And if I don't take good care of you, you probably wouldn't call me back, right?
Yep.
But if I do a great job and make you more money than you could selling on your own or even hiring another agent, does it matter at the end of the day that you pay me 3% versus 2.5%?
Not really.
So let's go ahead and do the right thing. Just out of curiosity, what price would you like to go to market at so that we can attract the buyers and they decide to buy your home instead of your competition?
Very nice. You are a machine. Love it.
A lot of practice,
right, well,
man. A lot of failure in that. So
yeah, and that's let's end on that point. One of the things coming into this call, I've been working hard on your appointment setting script, writing it out, rewriting it, chanting it. I've established a couple role play partners, and lo and behold, this morning, all of a sudden, the script is coming out, fast and pretty smooth. And I just want to ask you, Rod, for these guys to be able to take some of the great thoughts and ideas that you've laid out here today. How much time do they really need to commit on a daily, weekly basis to get this stuff down? What would you say realistically?
Honestly, it's always going to be a work in progress. You're always going to be able to improve little things. But if you spent 30 minutes in the morning reading the script, 30 minutes in the evening reading the script, listening to it as it's recorded, driving back and forth, and then role-playing once a day, in 30 days you would have mastered the script. In 30 days. If you were purposeful about it and you spent, an hour and a half a day, a half-hour role-play, a half-hour in the morning reading it, a half-hour in the evening reading into it, and then just listening to it while you're driving, in 30 days you would be better than 99% of your competition with the script. And you're setting a lot of appointments at that point. And then you focus on the listing presentation. Same thing, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. Listen to it on your drives and a 30-minute role play. And within 6 months, you could take 5 or 6 critical components to real estate and absolutely master them to where you're better than 95% of your competition. You know, hey, I'm interviewing 18 different agents. Bring it on, you know. I'm better than 95. You got to bring in 20 to have one guy that might beat me, right? So bring him on. Let's go.
Rod, you're awesome. Hey, man, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And then, you know, obviously I'll invite you on to all the next calls. We've got Tom Toole is going to hit up the expired, next week. We've got, I'm going to get Christoph. I'm going to get a couple people on social media to work on our branding and whatnot. So we're going to turn the corner on some prospecting here because you've given us plenty to convert at least 5 FSBOs this year. So thank you so much for helping us make another $50,000 to $100,000 this year. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. It's a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you're the man. Have a great one. See you guys.
Thanks.